This conference will now be recorded.
It is 10 a.m. and we'll call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Sweetwater Enterprise for Economic Development, Municipal Development District of Sweetwater, Texas. It's Monday, January 11th, 2021. We'll open with a prayer. Mr. Cherry, please do that for us.
Yes, I'd love to. Pray, bow with me, please. Father God, as we gather in our unhuddled masses, remind us that you are and always will be our God. Father, we thank you for the moisture for our farmers in our area. We know that you're in control of all things. Today, we ask that you give us wisdom and willingness to be servants of our community and disperse our funds as will best fit our situations and what we have the opportunity to do. Father, all the blessings you send our way, we are very thankful. We're thankful for your son, and it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gil. Great prayer. Great way to start the meeting. And glad everybody's here. We'll go to item number 3, public comments and receipt of petitions. Do we have any of those? There being none, we'll go to item number 4. Dana, thank you for being here, and we look forward to your update.
Okay.
Thank you. You can hear me? Misha, I'm going to share. Okay, good deal.
Got it?
I think so. Let's see which one do you want first?
I think
update?
the update, yeah, I think the update would be great too first.
Okay. Is this on screen right now?
Yes, you're not on slide 1 though. There we go.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come before the board again. I look forward to these meetings so we can discuss things that are happening in the community, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and give you updates, and I may have a request or two. It's been a good partnership, and I expect it to continue. And again, thank you very much. I have an update for you on a couple things here that are ongoing. We're in phase 2 of our commercial corridor structures. These are some properties or addresses that I had brought to the board a while back. We are in process of public notification for these 6 properties. 2302 East Broadway, 605 West Broadway, 3321 State Highway 70, 3413 West Broadway, 1117 West Broadway, and 816 West Broadway, all on the corridor. One is off, it's really Highway 70 off of Lamar on the other side of I-20. You've seen these before. I just wanted to kind of let you know that on February 9th, the City Council will consider a declaration of these structures as substandard, which is the first step. And then I anticipate that they'll order abatement, meaning that we go to the next step, which is giving the property owner 30 days actually to do something with their property. And if they don't, then it kicks in the process for us. For instance, if nothing is done to that property, we will then go out and do some asbestos inspections like we did on that first phase. And then we'll get ready to do the bidding after we receive those inspections for asbestos and demolition. And the dates are there, March 29th, and then we'll give 30 days to receive those bids. We're going to do asbestos and demolition at the same time this time. Last time we did asbestos first. As it turned out, we did both, demolition with asbestos in place, which could happen again, but felt that we can do both of these bids at the same time. That'll save us a month or so in time. And then we will award those. The approximate date is May 7th, and then we hope to have the projects all completed by June 18th. In between time, we're not quite sure, what's going to happen. We may have a property owner come forward and with a plan to update one of them. So we're going to go through that in that first up until March 19th and see what we can do if somebody comes forward and says they have a plan for improvement. But this is really the schedule on the current phase. Now, we were a little bit behind on this one for a couple reasons. One, we were not able to, COVID kind of hit us a little bit, so we were short of staff, it seems like the whole time. And then we got the ability to go on the property with warrants later than we thought we would. So that's all been done. Inspections have been done. So we're in process. I think this schedule will work out pretty well, and we'll try and get it done quicker if we can as we move ahead. Any questions on this process?
Dana,
Yes.
so how are you going to, how does somebody put together a bid if they don't know if there's asbestos on the property or not?
We'll have the asbestos inspections done by then. So we won't go out to bid until we know what's there. So the inspections will happen, and then we'll get the reports, and then we'll go with those reports. That'll be part of the bid. So we'll have those when we solicit those bids. We're hoping that we can get this inspections done and get the reports within 7 days. If I might, may I go to the next item? It's still part of the update. Okay. I went on this slide. So this is, it's phase 3. We may have a few other commercial properties with this, but this is the Lone Star Hotel property. This is really, I think,
Longhorn.
Is it Longhorn? I didn't make that change. Yeah, it's Lone Star. Now, do you have Longhorn on yours?
No, we
We
made that
marked
change. But that's the name of the property, is the Longhorn.
Okay. Well, scratch Lone Star and put Longhorn, and I guess I didn't make the change on this. I knew about it. Danny Heine mentioned to me that I had the wrong name, but that's the one. It's the property that we all understand it to be. We will be going out after we get on the property and do we'll have warrants to do the inspection. There's a number of buildings on there. And then we'll go have those inspections done. That'll give us enough information then to go out and publicly notify the property owner. We believe April 13th will be the time that we'll actually have the council to consider the properties. What that means is that we will have sent the public notices out a month ahead of that. So in March, I don't have that date on here, the public notices will go out in March. And then the April 13th meeting is the meeting that will ask the council to consider declaration of those structures for substandard. We don't know how it's going to turn out because we don't have the inspections, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to do. We understand that it's a property that is in need of something, repair, cleanup. It's in my opinion, a pretty blighting influence on that corridor. So we're going to work on this one by itself. I understand, at least my information I'm getting is that it might be a little bit contentious moving forward. That's why we want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row as we get the inspections, and then we provide that information to the property owner and to the city council as they're considering the declaration on this. The rest of the dates kind of follow along. We'll have if the council orders abatement, we'll give some time. We'll get the asbestos inspections, and then we're going to do the same thing, asbestos and demolition bids at the same time. And Russ, we'll have the asbestos inspection information when we go out to bids. And then a matter of putting the bids out and awarding them, and then moving on. We think that by September 1st, we should have that property one way or another addressed. But the process will have gone through, and we'll see where it goes. That's really what we're looking at. So we're gearing up for this. We believe that this is, if we can get through this process, it's going to be a nice project to further clean up that corridor area. So we're not sure how it's going to turn out, but I'm hopeful and positive that it'll be a good turnout on this property, one way or another, to get it abated, either the structure's abated, improved, or taken down, one or the other. So that's what the process is. And so this is really the timeline for that.
Dana, sorry, can I
yes.
ask a question? So I'm just trying to understand it. So is there a step in there where the city would actually have to condemn the property?
Yes.
Because that, you can't do any of the, I mean, the way I'm understanding it, you're trying to promote the property owner to take care of it, I guess, through this. But if they don't, and then the city moves to condemn it, then is that along this timeline too? Or am I just, maybe I'm asking a question that's not relevant. I don't know.
No, no, that's a great question, Carolyn. So on that April 13th, the council will consider declaring that as substandard. Same thing as really saying it's dilapidated. What I didn't put in there, which I would have made it more clear, is that in March, we'll actually send the notice out to the property owner, and we'll give them 35 days one way or another. And then they'll have, by state law, we have to give that much time. And then April 13th, all the notices will be done. They'll have 35 days to contact the city or do something with that property. And if nothing's been done and we don't have any contact, then council will consider declaring it at that time.
Okay. And then how does seed work into this whole scenario? Is that?
So through the process, when we get to the steps where we're ready to go out for the bids, what I'm going to ask, and I guess it's more of an update, and I'll probably work with Ken and Misha on how we're going to bring it to the board, but I think that you would be asked to approve or move forward with the bids on asbestos and demolition. So somehow we'll have to work that into that process, because I think that's exactly what we did last time. And I don't have the dates on here.
Looking at your timeline, if you get in on July 1st, the bids, we could be looking at our July meeting, which would be the second Monday of that month, to actually look at that as making a decision, so that July 5th would probably need to be pushed back some.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's right. So I think the reason I put the July 1st on there is that we knew that we were going to have to bring it to the seed board and then the council as well, depending upon what amount there is. So yes, thanks, Ken. That's it'll be extended just a little bit further out then to get the approvals.
And to give you some dates, as it turns out, July 12th would be the day the seed meets, and
Okay.
it turns out that the city meets on the 13th. So if we approved it, the city could also have it on their agenda to approve it the next day.
Okay, I'll update this timeline to reflect those dates, and I'll get that back to you, Ken and Misha, and then you can share that with the board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana, this is Joseph. Good morning.
Hi, Joseph.
Dana, has the owner been contacted, and is the owner aware of these plans that are being laid out here today?
For this property, not yet. So the public notification will be the first step that they'll be notified. And we have to do that because in order to get through the rest of the steps, we have to actually send that by certified mail. And in this case, I think knowing the background of the owner, we want to make sure that we've got our legal process in place. So Yeah, we could make a contact ahead of time and say, this is coming. We could do that, Joseph. We didn't plan on doing that. We were just going to send the notice out, and then I anticipate that we'll have the owner contact us right away when they receive it.
Okay, Dana, I certainly can respect and understand why we would want our legal to be in play and be in order. But I also think that we live in a small town, and I think that we should at least make the phone call and allow the owner to make rectifications on his own if he is willing, he or she.
We can certainly do that, and we have enough time to do that. So we could advise the owner of the process that may be upcoming and give them a chance to respond first. No matter how they respond, we could still go ahead with this process. It would be nice if they would just take it on themselves. That would be better for everybody. But yeah, we can do that and make that initial contact. I think that's again, makes a lot of sense to me. We didn't have it in this timeline here, but given this particular property, it probably would be a good move to, a courtesy call to say this is coming.
From my personal perspective, I certainly think so, but I'd like to hear what other committee members believe.
Sure.
Well, have they been given inspection or, code violations? How have they responded to the normal code violations? Because it's certainly not just looked like that overnight. It's been horrible for a long time. So what has been their response to the code violation tickets or whatever y'all do to let them know that they're in trouble or that they are violating city ordinances?
So I guess looking back at the history of this property, whenever we have notified them before, and I wouldn't say that that's been the case the last year or so, we've gotten them to take care of the mowing. I think the structures, even when I looked at them when I came here, maybe I was here for 6 months or so, they weren't as bad back then as they are now. So the idea here, Carolyn, and I think it's, I'm glad you bring it up, the process itself and the fact that we would go do these inspections is going to give us a lot of information to provide to them about what is deficient. And it'll be very objectively done through that Bureau Veritas group. They'll identify very specifically what needs to be done. I don't know whether we have had that capability, to be honest with you. But by contracting with that firm, we do now have a better capability of at least looking at the structures themselves. The property grounds, I think that that's something that probably has not been done to the level that it should be. And I think we would all agree that we've had enough. And so I think this is the process that really puts them on notice all across the board.
Dana, Ken, I agree with Joseph. In fact, I guess if I had my druthers, I would ask that we make that initial connection with whoever properties we're dealing with. I know sometimes that's impossible to do because it's hard to find everybody, but I think as he mentioned, living in a small town, I think it's just would be a great common courtesy to say, we're going through this process and we're just letting you know ahead of time that you're going to be, getting some paperwork that's going to put us into a, dilapidated structure or whatever it is, so they at least know what's coming to them.
Okay.
And also, can we not just give them a copy of the city ordinance on how to keep your property up to code? It just seems like you just read all of those things and then they should be able to tell where they're in violation. I'm not sure. I know this outside firm helps point that out, but I would think the city of Sweetwater has been having code, checking on the code, keeping up code always. That's what code inspection is, right? Give them a copy, email them a copy of our city ordinance and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I guess I'm not following this exactly, but I think when you tell them, you can't just say, hey, your property looks bad. You've got to be able to say, these are the violations, or here's the ordinance. You look at it and, am I right? I don't know.
Yeah, whenever we send a letter out, Carolyn, we send a copy of the, I forget what chapter it is in our code of ordinances.
Good.
That goes along with the letter. And then they can identify that, number one, they know that there's an ordinance on it. And then it identifies there's 5 particular categories that they can review. And
So
they'll look at it.
So they've received this letter many times, I would think, by now. They've obviously received a letter like this surely every year, every 6 months or something, right? They have letters that have copies of the ordinances. They know what their violations are, right?
I believe that they do, yes.
Okay.
I firmly believe that they do.
Okay.
Well, Dana, to Carolyn's point, is the owner currently in violation of anything, and has the city provided notification to the owner of said violations?
We haven't sent anything out recently, but just from my looking at the property, a few of those structures are unsecured, meaning there's broken windows. They can be accessed by the public even if there's a fence there. So they, at a minimum, would have to secure those buildings to make sure that nobody can get in them. And when people get in those buildings, they can get hurt, and there's a liability on the property owner. So typically when you have an unsecured structure, that's the first step, I guess, that property is going to fall further. They're not caring.
Have they received a letter? Because we have a lot of properties in our community that have broken windows and are unsecured. So has the Longhorn Hotel, have their owners received a letter from the city stating you are in violation of code because of X, X, and X? Have they ever received a letter to date? That's just the question that I'm trying to ask. I think that's the question everybody's trying to ask. Is that
same question? Yes.
Yes or a no? Are they aware? I mean, I know they can, they should be able to look at their property and know, hey, I'm not doing a good job. But you can also look around our community and see the same thing in other places. So have they received a code violation letter in the mail from the city of Sweetwater?
Carolyn, without having that information ahead of me, I'm not sure I can answer it. I can answer the fact that we have sent them letters on their mowing part of it. There's been a void, a time lag, I suppose, in this community where, quite honestly, I don't think code has done much for substandard structures until the last year. To be honest, we've done a few, but we have done residential. We haven't done commercial. I think, and if I was to look back, that I just don't think the commercial structures have been touched very much or very well for that type of issue. And so that's why we're really stepping it up in the last year or so. I looked at it and have really had to work with the staff on what the process was and to build some capacity in order to do so. So the question is, I'm not quite sure. I do know that we've notified for mowing. I do know that in the discussions, but I'd have to look back to see if we've ever notified them for an unsecured structure or a substandard structure. My guess is that we haven't.
Okay. But we are going to, so that's good.
Yes, we are. Yes. We are ready to do.
Really, sorry, Dana. So really the process then is to get more information, particular to asbestos, and then that would further leverage the city to go through the process. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's pretty good. We need to have good information to move forward with. It's one thing to say that a structure is blighting. It's an blighting influence. It's another to say that you've got holes in the wall, you've got holes in the roof, you've got problems with your electrical, your plumbing, and that type of thing, and that there, is asbestos as well when we get further in the process. So this is a way to document all along the way to make sure that we've done our due diligence in working with the property owner, and where we'll have enough information to make the case and to justify even further moving ahead on the properties.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Anybody have any other questions for Dana? Are you continuing, Dana, or I didn't mean to
I've
interrupt.
got another,
Go ahead.
I'm going to end the show here and bring up my other, I guess I could do that, right, Misha? There we go. This is, I know that we've been working on the corridors, and we're going to continue working on those. I think we've made some progress, and we'll make more as we move ahead. I had just been out where I go out and kind of observe, inspect the community, as I think a director should, to see what's happening out there. I was looking at our school structures. And so what do we have around the school structures? And what I have before you here is, it's really just more information. I'm not asking for anything from the board, but maybe to consider possibly down the line as we continue our process, as we start working on our corridors more, that maybe down the line we would consider some areas of the city to take a look at structures that are vacant and what I would consider to be dilapidated, at least based on an observation. So I have identified a number of structures here that I've taken pictures of, I've seen, that are around some of our school areas. And so I'm just going to go down the list and just kind of give that information to you. And before I actually do that, I think the number one thing to just consider, and in my mind, it's always important that, if people are going to be looking at moving to Sweetwater for employment, in particular, the school facilities are always those that are very important for folks. And so the facilities themselves are one thing, but other structures within the vicinity of some of these buildings may tell another story, and it might dissuade people from possibly coming to Sweetwater if in fact they feel that their kids would be unsafe. And so structures like this may tend to give that perception to folks. So I have 3 school facilities here. I have a few, the Sweetwater Middle School. This is on, I've got the addresses there, but there's an area within a block and a half of the Sweetwater Middle School, starting with this one at 399 Burrell Street. It's an old mobile home that's been boarded up, but obviously they're mowing it, but it's really clearly a dilapidated structure. You can tell the roof is caving in on the one side. It's just a structure that it will continue to dilapidate. There hasn't been anything. We have not made any notifications, if that's a question, but we're going to be moving on these properties at some point here. So this is one. This is another one. You may recognize it. Actually, it's an old historic structure. It's at 300 Canfield. It's on the corner. So the middle school is just on the other side of the street, and we have our soccer fields and our ball fields on just the other side of Canfield. But this is a structure that's been vacant, and you can see that maintenance is an issue here. May even be something that could be renovated, but at this point it's just been left go, and it's a blighting influence in that area. Nice corner lot. Moving on down to Canfield, here's another structure that you can see if you look at the roof. There's a hole in that roof, so that house has been weathered. I'm sure that there is some water damage in there. It's completely vacant, again, dilapidated, and that's at 319 Canfield. It's 2 houses down from the first one, or from the last one that I showed. And this is another couple structures down. This is at 313 Canfield, another dilapidated structure. You can see the sign of the school zone sign there, but it's clearly, you can see those, it's hard to see from this picture, but those windows on the side, they're all busted. So when I looked at the structure, I moved this up on my list of things that we need to take care of. Just the fact that these structures could become where, inappropriate activity could occur down the line, may already be occurring. I don't have that information, but to be more proactive and removing these would be a good thing, in my opinion.
Dana, so just a quick question. So does the city have a schedule for removing dilapidated residential properties? And is it included in that, the city's budget to do this? Because my understanding was these types of things were always handled by the city in the past. And then as far as the corridor goes, are we looking at that gas station that's right beside Sweetwater Middle School that is, in my opinion, absolutely horrendous? I mean, that is something that is more of a commercial property. Have they been served any kind of notice, or not served, but have they been notified with any type of code violation on that? I would be curious, are we doing any kind of code enforcement first? And I just want to question that as a seed board member, because I feel like that is important in our decision-making process. I feel like we're getting asked to kind of come and fund on the tail end of something, but is code enforcement being done?
So the property you're alluding to, we have not moved on that one at all for commercial at this point in time.
But if you've not notified them at all that they are in violation of code?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think we did for mowing, where we had them clean up around the building, and that's about as far as we got. And I would say the reason is that we just, at this point, we're building capacity to do that. I don't think there was much, and I don't mean to downplay anybody that was in that department. I just don't think that it was a priority, where I think it is. So that's why we're moving this ahead. That particular project is one that I've identified on Lamar that we need to work on. That one brings a little bit different situation, because we may have some underground leaky storage tanks there, and I'm not quite sure how that's handled through a situation where the pumps have to be taken out and so forth. So that probably will be where we've got to see what kind of funding might be available grant-wise to remove some of those if they're leaky underground. We'll have to do probably some type of a soil survey or inspection on those. I'm not quite sure what the process is for that, Carolyn. That's just one that we just don't know how to handle at this point in time. And I can tell you that we're getting better. Huh?
But I think we can still, the city still needs to notify any property owner of code violations, just with the ordinances. Whatever they're violating, they get a notice. I just am having a hard time following that missing step. Am I the only person? Does anybody else have any comments? Or Russ, do you have a comment? I can't, Dr. Peak, I can't say.
No, Carolyn, I completely agree.
Well, point well taken. I can tell you that this is an area that we are working on, and I guess trying to build some capacity and get better at, where I'm not quite sure that it had been done at the level that it should have been previously. I guess I'll leave it at that. And yes, we will continue working on these. I think, again, it's a matter of making sure that we understand, we know what we're doing. And so we're in that process of training and mentoring and that whole thing to make sure we don't make any mistakes along the way, and to identify with a good inspection, not only providing the ordinances, but to point out what the problems are also. So it's not just, it looks bad, fix it up.
Thank you, Dana. I think, does anybody have any comments? I mean, I think from the support standpoint, we know it's important for our city to have the substandard structures removed. I mean, some of these around middle school, you just think, come on, can the city not just get a bulldozer, tear those down and go put them in the new landfill? But I know we need we appreciate you sharing this with us, and does anybody have any comments? Anybody?
Yes, I think, Dana, what we're concerned about is these structures that maybe are getting close to being dilapidated. And like that gas station that Carolyn's talking about, it wasn't that long ago that it was a good structure, is a viable business. And if code enforcement was active, maybe we could save a lot of these structures from getting to the point where we're having to deal with them now. because I don't know how much longer this board's going to stomach, paying for, demolition of all these buildings in town.
Sure.
And so if you could be more proactive and try to save these structures from getting to that point, I think that's what we as a board, I think, are wanting to see.
Sure, absolutely, and I appreciate that. And so we'll continue working on these. I can tell you, I don't think that in the past that there was much funding to remove any of them. So it probably would be best interest to try and get the owner to do something with them rather than having them removed. But I agree. It's just a matter of having a program in place to, regular proactive notifications. I think we are playing it a bit more reactive, but I would also say that we're talking a couple decades here. And so sometimes we just get thrown into reactive mode. So anyway, I appreciate the comments.
We lacked a landfill to be able to put the debris in. We were constructing a landfill for many years. So that was sort of the reason everything was put on hold. So we have a landfill now. So anyway.
Right,
okay.
we do.
Thank you, everybody. Any other comments? Ken, Misha, y'all have anything?
No, I think one of the things that Misha and I did a drive around on Friday afternoon looking at all these school structures, and we realized that they're not on the 5 main corridors. But I think, as Dana said, one of the things that always concerning is when someone comes to town, the first place they go is to look at the schools and want to know more about schools. And some of these properties just really do not put a very good face on the city of Sweetwater. And somehow with your partnership, I know Misha's going to be trying to meet with the county to see if there's any way that they might be able to help participate in some of this stuff. Because it needs to be more than one entity or two entities. As a community, we need to all step up and figure out how to make ourselves much better looking than we are now.
I agree completely. That would be a partnership I would be happy to be a part of. That's good. Good idea. Okay, anybody
I will
else?
say that I'll add that we have taken the first step, and I did meet with Judge May, and his comment was that the county doesn't have the right equipment. So I plan to try to meet with Commissioner Ortega here pretty soon to speak with him as well. So.
I don't know about that. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Dana. We appreciate it. We really do. We know you're working hard to try to make Sweetwater better, and we appreciate that. We do.
Well, thank you. And again, honestly, you've been a good partner, and I think we know what we can get done. And I think that's only because of your involvement at this point. We'll build some more capacity to handle some more of this, but without your efforts, I'm not sure we would see a whole lot of progress at this point, at least for the getting rid of those dilapidated structures, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with our action items if it's time. Is everybody ready to do that? Action item 5A, board to review and consider approving the minutes of the December 14th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
I move we accept.
It's moved and seconded. Approve the minutes for December 14th. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed?
Okay.
Did you get it, Misha?
Yeah, or who seconded that? Was that Mr. Cherry?
Yes.
Okay. And Dana, would you mind to stop your screen share? Could you quit sharing your screen? Okay.
There we go. Thank you, Misha. All righty, so now we're to B, approve the minutes of December 23rd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Right. So it's moved and seconded that we approve the minutes for December 23rd, 2020 meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed, no. So the ayes have it and the motion is carried. we'll go to action item 5C, board to review and consider approving payment of accounts payable.
I move that we approve payment on the accounts payable.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded to approve the accounts payable. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We'll go to 5D, board to review and consider approving the November 2020 financial statements.
Okay, we've made a couple of changes on the financial statements. Carolyn and I have, I guess, discussed, and she's convinced me that we needed to really be showing funds that we have approved for our facade improvement grants and for our demolition projects and things that we do of that nature with the city and stuff. And so on the balance sheet, you'll see that there is an increase, a quite large increase in the designated fund balance, but that is because we have added the facade improvement grants and the specific funds that we've approved for initial property inspections on some properties that were approved back in October. So going to the income statement, you'll see we are a little higher in expenses this year, but that is because of our new website that we've kind of been funding, and a lot of those funds have already been spent early in the year. And so compared to previous years, our expenses are a little bit higher than that, but that is because of that website. And once all those, I believe January, will be finished paying for that. And so we'll kind of go back into regular routine expenses. And if you turn to page 7 on your designated fund balance, you'll see down there at the bottom where we've added some of those facade improvement grants, as well as the City of Sweetwater is for the initial property inspections through Bureau Veritas. We will be adding Project Jupiter next month for December, since we've approved those funds past month. If you go to sales tax, you'll see, sorry about the hashtags and stuff there. I don't know if y'all see the hashtags like I do, but when I printed our total for year 2020, that $1,021,294.06 kind of got hashtagged out on that, but we'll fix that going forward. And our allocation for January of 2021 is just a little down 6% compared to 2020, but we're still not in too bad of shape. Ever since we've become an MDD, this is our, probably about our third best month or so. If you'll take a look at your unemployment rate, Mellon County is still below the U.S. average. Texas, on the other hand, is doing a little bit more negative. I don't know if you saw that oil and gas report. Ken sent out an oil and gas report, and Christy Craddock was on there quoted as oil and gas makes up about 35% of our economy. And so that could be a little reason that we're seeing larger unemployment rates. We did check the West Texas crude this morning. It's at $51.96, and then Brent is around about $55.50. And so hopefully we can kind of start seeing a rebound going forward, and maybe the vaccination and everything for the COVID-19 will help us as well. And if you'll go on and look at the line charts, I was going to ask if everyone is okay with me only presenting these line charts every quarter instead of every month, maybe saving us a couple of sheets of paper. But I would like to present them January, April, July, and October. Okay. All righty. And unless there's questions on that.
Quick question, Misha. This is
Yeah.
Joseph. Turn back to page 6.
Mm-hmm.
On your revenue for November, we have a expenditure of $15,000 for admin fee. Is that to the city for the audit? Is that
Yes,
what that
sir.
is?
No, it's not for the audit, but it's for our yearly, well, Patty, how she keeps up with our financials and does our payroll and everything. It's a one-time yearly fee, and it's been that 15,000, I believe, since, Ken's told me since they started taking care of it. Is that correct, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed over the years, but the 15,000 has been there. This is probably at least the third year, if not fourth, that it's been at 15.
But yeah, that's pretty much just for their in-office and to take care of our payroll and pay our bills for us and do all of our financial records and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Misha, may I ask a question? I wouldn't ask this, except I know you can do this in about 5 minutes. So, but to somebody else, it might sound a little bit, not that I should ask. Would you be able to prepare for us another report, not for every time, but just for next time, a financial report that shows all of the incentives that we've done in the last 5 years? Just a spreadsheet. You'll take this one to start with, and then the ones that have completed and rolled off in 5 years, and just the amount approved and the amount dispersed, which should be the same, or else if it rolled off and we didn't disperse everything. I think that would be helpful for our board to look at when we make a decision on, say, a park improvement or as the asbestos type bids that are brought to us, if we can kind of look back and see. I don't think you'll add much more to it, except for some of the city projects that we've done. Maybe the facade, is what'll be added to this. But I think just a picture of that would be helpful for me. And like I said, I think that would, I know you can do that quickly.
Are you okay with it being presented next month, or would you like it beforehand, before next month's meeting?
What do y'all, would that be helpful for y'all next month for any decisions that we make? Is that okay? Are you okay with me asking her to do that? Okay, yeah, next month is great, Misha.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so any questions on the financials? Good job, Misha.
Thank you.
Move to accept.
Second.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded to approve the November 2020 financial statements. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. So the ayes have it and the motion is carried. Okay, so we're through with our action items. We'll go on to the reports, please.
Okay. I know mine only says a website update, but we've had some pretty exciting things happen since we've posted the agenda. I will go ahead and give a quick website update. We did a handover meeting back on January, and I get trained on WordPress, which is the back end part of how you edit the website, on Wednesday, January 13th. And so we're still on schedule to go live by the end of January, beginning of February. Also, coming up February 11th, we're doing a SISD tour with Dr. Howard, Mr. Jared Duncombe, and Kenny Border. And we're going to be giving a tour of Lovelands and USG to kind of educate them about our local manufacturing jobs, and to talk with them about developing a better workforce pipeline and talent pipeline, and just kind of show them some of our manufacturing workforce needs for our local businesses. And so that'll be coming up in February. Back in, probably about the first week of December, I met with Royal Properties. Her name's Cricket, and she is the property manager for Judith Hampman and the Hampman Properties. And we met in regard to 3 of our local apartment complexes, including Apple Creek, Country Club Apartments, and Village Apartments. And they have sent us, Ken and I, a proposal over that kind of talks about what they plan to do to improve these properties. They've given us products, doors, paint, stuff that they plan to use. And Ken and I have actually set up a meeting to walk some of these properties for January 25th. And she is very excited. The new property manager for Mrs. Hampman is very excited to kind of work with the MDD and help bring those properties up to a different standard. So I think that's very exciting. She's very adamant about having some of these completed before the GP project, before they start moving people in for that GP project. So we'll keep y'all updated on that. And like I said, we'll be meeting with her on the 25th. We've also got a phone call from a lady, Brenda Sharp, and she purchased a while back those 3 lots on Haley by Dr. McEachran's house. She also has another 3 lots over on the corner of Alabama and Newman. She's come to us and kind of been curious about the housing incentive, per square footage incentive that we're offering for home developers. She actually already has the floor plans for both, for her first house at both locations. Like I said, there's room for 3 on Haley and 3 on Alabama. And she is going to come up to our office and meet with Ken and I on the 13th. So here on Wednesday, she'll come up here and meet, and we're going to discuss some of the opportunities there. And kind of exciting thing is that she already has about 75% of her subcontractors secured for both of these locations. And so hopefully that'll give us an opportunity to get a few more new houses by a different home developer or builder. And so we'll keep y'all updated on that as well as we progress. Gary McDowell has already started preparing the 6th lot for his 6th home. If you drive by out there, you'll see that he's kind of started moving in some dirt and started at the culvert sitting out in the front for the drainage. And so he also plans to do 3 more houses coming this spring. And Mr. Villafranca has already scraped the lot for his first patio home over there on Skinny Drive. So we have a lot going on with the housing, pretty exciting. And we've also been reaching out to a contact that Joseph has provided us with, Mr. Evan Harris, through First Financial Bank. He is their go-to person for the Big Country Home Builders Association. And he's kind of working on compiling us a list of possible home builders that we can go after and share some available properties for development here in Sweetwater, as well as along with our our incentive agreements that we're willing to offer right now. And so I think, Ken, did you have something to add as far as the housing goes?
Yeah, we've been contacted by another group. Would this board have any desire in assisting in single family home remodeling that would be for rent, not for someone just to purchase and live in themselves or flip? We just kind of need to know a direction on that. If yes, then we'll go forward. If no, then that's okay too. But we just kind of see that there's some groups out there that have desire to buy some homes, remodel them, and put them in the rental market.
Are these local folks, Ken?
Yes. And, and something as you're kind of thinking through that, Misha and I actually talked about some ways that, for instance, if we chose to kind of go that route, we could make it to where they're tied to the main corridors, because then you would actually get something redone that could be a rental property, but also improve the looks of our corridor. And then we could also even put in some kind of a clawback that says in the first 3 years, you cannot sell the house, you have to keep it as a rental, or else at the end of each year, there'd be a certain percentage of the funds that we allotted that we need to come back to see it as a repayment. So it isn't somebody just buying a house and flipping it.
Yeah, Ken, this is Joseph. I guess my initial reaction is as follows. The idea of the housing issue and the incentives that we've come up with, in my humble opinion, they're really meant to help drive new construction. And when you look at the inventory in Sweetwater, you look at inventory that's somewhat aged. And again, I'm not saying no to your request, but my initial reaction is, if you look back on the background of those incentives, the underlying purpose was to generate interest in new construction, which in what the market needs. So that's my 2 bits.
And I don't disagree with you on that, but I think what we were looking at, again, this is just initial discussion, is the rental market. We know that we're not going to get someone to come in and put in big apartment complexes in a new area. And is this an area that we can make a difference in? And again, we're just trying to find out if there's desire to go forward. If not, then we don't want to spend a lot of time on that. We've got plenty of other things that we can be working.
Ken, if I might add, we have a situation where if you don't put multiple restrictions on that rental property improvement, you're going to have an influx of a lot of people requesting. For example, we have many units we could put on that list, and we don't deserve that. That's our choice to buy those homes, and it's our choice to remodel those homes. And if somebody offers us free money, we'd take it. But it's a business model. It's got to be looked at as a business model and not as a handout.
Oh,
So,
and I appreciate that comment. That's what we're just trying to look is, because we already talked in the last year about not doing the remodeling of existing houses and stuff for homeowners. So this probably fit into that. But I really appreciate your comment because that makes a lot of sense. And if unless somebody objects, I think that's kind of what we'll move forward with, and we can always revisit this at some other time if needed, but at this point, we'll kind of leave that alone.
But I agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, unless there were questions on anything I kind of discussed or comments or anything like that.
Well, hearing none, I'll go ahead and start with mine. I've got two things, plus I've got one other thing is just kind of an update. We'll be working with GP and the city on getting updates on construction and water lines and all that stuff, and along with the PUC applications. Misha, you might kind of mention some of the access you have on the PUC stuff.
Well, it's back whenever we first started the filing process with the PUC for our CCN. There is a location on the PUC website that you can sign up for and actually enter your email address and get a notification every time a new document related to that filing is filed. So we're doing our best to keep up and make sure everything is running smoothly and actually getting done with the PUC, and kind of just monitoring that part.
Well, good. And I think that one of the things on the PUC is part of that, whether or not we can get dual certification in that 200-foot area and single certification. GP has already sent a letter to the PUC requesting that they remove their objection. So I think the attorneys in the city are trying to decide whether or not they're going to have to put in a new application, or they can just alter the existing application to where we can be at least singly certified in most of the area for GP. But we'll work on trying to have those on a monthly basis. And that way I can not only get it from the city's point of view, get it from Sage and the construction side, and then we'll also be able to get this to GP. While we're still talking about GP, Jared passed on some information about some folks that were working on some of the GP stuff and have been told that there's kind of delay because of some of the permitting. I talked with GP on Friday. They're double checking that because they actually said that their air quality permit is actually coming through quicker than they expected, but he wasn't sure on some of the others. So we're trying to see if there was any kind of delays being forced because of that offset. So as soon as we know something about that, we'll give everybody an update. Yes.
All right. Can I just ask a quick question? I hope it's not a dumb question, but so would the single serve CCN be for where the water line is going to be, or is that a dumb question?
No, that's a great question. The 200-foot is already certified for Bitter Creek. What we're asking for is to be duly served in that 200-foot and then singly served on the rest of the property. we really figure that Bitter Creek will decline that. And we don't, from our water attorney, doesn't think that's a big deal for them to decline it. We're just going to continue to try to get that until they say no.
So where we'll put in the water line that SEED is helping, is funding, that will go in the single serve area in that acreage. Is that right? Or does it not, or does that not even matter? I don't know. I'm sorry.
It does, because that's some of the stuff we've learned from Sage. He said this is standard. If you're putting in a singly served water line, sometimes you cross over somebody else's property that you don't have access to. So he said, by law, you have those rights. He said sometimes it's a little harder, but our attorney doesn't think it's going to be a big issue, and Sage doesn't either.
Okay. Thank you.
Park improvements, we go back when we were doing our retreat for this coming year, and we talked about the different park improvements we were planning for. And, now that we're going to spend $2.5 million, I know there's a little concern of how much of this park improvement stuff can we afford to do when we're going to be putting $2.5 million into a water line, and one of the things that we talked about, if you remember, when Misha and I said that, we basically have about $1 million a year annual income, about a third of that is expenditures, overhead, office, people, all that stuff. And about 2/3 of that is money that's available for funding of different things. I would like for us to at least think, because this water line is still a little bit down the line, that at least kind of work on our commitment in 2021 or 2020 and 2021 in the park side and come up with a couple projects. And I know 2 projects have been kind of high on at least some people's list. One would be an expansion of the walking track in Newman Park. And then there's also been discussion of a possible skateboard park. And is that something maybe that could be put into Fraley Park? Because we're doing quite a bit of stuff that's going into Newman Park. And again, I think, goes back to what Dr. Peak said several months ago. That's our biggest used park. And the most things that we want to do is there. But I think it would also be really good if we could take and improve some of the other parks along that line. Just wanted to kind of see what the board's thought were on that. We also know that Russell will be retiring at the end of the month. I don't know that we know exactly how that's going to change. I know that there's been discussion about not hiring that position and possibly having Dana take that over as part of his overview and have the department heads kind of run on that. So just kind of get an idea of what you guys want us to do so we make sure we're not dropping the ball.
Ken, I'll start out the first because I've got to tell the board that my opinion has changed over the last 8, 9, 10 months of making our Coliseum a focal point for our city instead of sharing and having mediocre parks all over town. I like the idea, or the idea has appealed to me, to have a central focal point where we concentrate our efforts of our money, and we can look. Now, the main basic basketball courts, some of the jungle gyms or whatever they're called in our Fraley and other parks, that's okay, and the city can continue to maintain those. But any big money, we concentrate it all in one place. We look like a bigger show place, we look more like a big town than the small community city. So I'm all for the skateboard. I'm all for the walking trail, but I'd like to see that at the Coliseum complex. That's all I have.
Thank you, Gil.
One of the other things, and again, I don't disagree with you. I think that does still make the most sense in a town our size to try to keep a really, really nice one. And I think you brought up a great point. Do we want one real nice one, or do we want 3 or 4 that are kind of mediocre? And I think those are great points. We do also have the high school and head coach and assistant coach for Sweetwater that is asking for some help on redoing the basketball court in Fraley. do remember there are no basketball courts that I know of in Newman Park. It would not be a high expense deal. It would be redoing the surface and putting up new goals and stuff. But the thing I like about that is that we have another group that's coming out saying that if we can improve some of this park area and the basketball area, that's something that they would be able to use the off-season basketball to really do some programs. So at least just something to be thinking about. We're definitely not asking for an answer today. We know there's a lot of efforts going to have to put in this, but those are the type of things that we're going to need to have an understanding of. So if we do need to work on just Newman, if so, then what are we going to do? Are we going to work on the walking track or whatever else, and kind of be thinking through that? And then, of course, the third thing for me is that I was telling Carolyn first of the year when I took some stuff down to get signed that we're, as of right now, about 8.5 months away of not having an executive director for SEED. So I think it's really time that we start that process. I think there's a number of things, and Carolyn has graciously volunteered, and I really like what she's said she would be willing to do, is that, you know, Misha may not want to say this, but I know Misha will be applying for the position. So I don't think any of that information needs to come through this office. And Carolyn is willing to have her address where all the stuff would be sent to. She would put together kind of a spreadsheet that would have all the applicants, their qualifications and so on that you as a board would do. But I think that we really need to have at least a couple board members work on this, because we're going to have to work on a qualification itself. We're going to have to work on the posting. We're going to have to talk about pay scales. And, you know, I've been here over 13 years, be almost 14. Well, it will be 14 when I retire. What better time to make any changes and refocusing than when you're going to have one person leave and a new person come in? So let's make sure that what we do is post for the right position that we want as a community. And I don't think that's something that, I mean, I'll be glad to help with, but I really don't think that's something I ought to be in charge of. While you're thinking about that, just to give you an idea, there's a number of postings. Our statewide Economic Development Corporation has a free posting. High Ground of Texas will get it for free. Texas Midwest Community Network will be free. Of course, we'll do social media. When Misha applied for the job she's got now, we used Indeed as another kind of a nationwide. And then we'll also talk with TML. We're not members of TML, but the city is. And I'm sure there's a posting area there. I don't know if that'll be a free or charged posting, but those are just some of the areas that we can get put out there. Any thoughts?
So Ken, you will help us develop the postings, right, though? I mean,
yeah, I'll help with all of it. I just think that we need to really sit down and talk through this and find out, you know, what are the strong suits of what we're wanting for a community. And I was telling Carolyn, and you know, I've been doing this long enough and seen it regionally and statewide that, you know, you're going to have some people that will apply that will actually use this as a stepping stone, only plan on being here for a couple of years and probably go someplace else. You'll also have probably an older group that may be looking to semi-retire, and so they'll want to come out of a bigger place and come to a smaller place and do that. And I'll be honest with you, I personally don't like either one of those. I think that we're a great community, but I think we have a lot of relationships that are very important in doing the job that I do. And it takes that relationship. And it scares me to bringing someone in that's going to want to change things for a couple of years just so they can put it on their resume and go off to the next place.
Would the board consider possibly everybody coming up with some things that they would like to see in an email form, and then that'll give us a start for posting? Or do y'all want to have a separate meeting and talk about it? How do y'all want to proceed? I think you've got to say in the application that they have to live in Sweetwater. That's my opinion.
Do we not have a current job description posted?
Well, when we redid the stuff for the MDD, there's a similar one, but I'll be honest, when I applied for the job, I never actually applied for the job. I got the job without filling out an application or knowing what the qualifications was.
Was that our first mistake?
We did that after the deal.
I kind of follow that thought, Gil. I'd like to see a job description, and Ken, I completely respect where you're coming from, given the board space and a process to recalibrate what we're wanting. But I really want your help too, because your network is vast, and I would hope that the board can lean on you through our search. Utilizing your network and your insight to your colleagues across the state. To me, that's invaluable.
Be more than happy to. In fact, as Carolyn talked, I don't mind actually sending out an email to everybody and just putting some different categories that we ought to be thinking, where you guys can kind of take that category, even if you just give some notes. That way, I'm not building the job description and qualifications. You guys are. We're just taking what you have put together. And I can do that without, since Misha's going to be applying for the job, I can do that without her help. She probably doesn't think I can, but I'll try.
Okay, I like that idea. So everybody will just, maybe Ken, you can kind of come up with a starting place of your job description. And, I know that's in my opinion, that is, I don't even know how you would begin to put down everything that is the job description for what we see through, we're so fortunate to see through our economic development district, to have, our leader as to be able to do so many things, I don't even know how you would begin to do that, but I guess just something to start with, and and then we'd go from there. And if anybody wanted to add to it, then they could. But
and I appreciate those comments, Carolyn. But it goes back to the first year I was hired here. J.B. Martin was on the board, and we had someone Carolyn used to work for. Eddie Brown was the city manager at that time, and they were asking how do they come up with a process where they evaluate the executive director. And we, at that time, C did not have one. And JB asked Eddie, said, could you come up with, what do they use for you at the city? And Eddie said, well, he said, my job is so hard, there isn't such a thing. And JB said, well, I understand that, but he said, I'm on the board of Hendrick Health Systems. We have an evaluation for our president and CEO. I bet we can come up with an evaluation for any job. And I think that sometimes we do that. Sometimes we, is our job different than others? In some ways it is, but it's probably no different than what Gil deals with and all the different things he has from an entrepreneur, from Russ Petty or everything else. And while I mentioned Gil, tell us a little bit about your business that you sent me some information on. That was really pretty cool. Your ranking in the RV stuff.
I hate to beat my own drum, Ken, but we were number 6 in the state as a single individual RV store in sales, and we felt like that was we were humbled with that. We although we want to stand up and holler and scream, some of the people that were competing with us were in the big cities, and we're from a little town. So it makes you realize that when you're weak at something, just surround yourself with people that know what they're doing, and it makes me look good.
Well, Gil, we try to do that with board members. That's what we're trying to do, is have strong board members to overlook what we don't do. This is going to be a fun process, and I'm excited because I think what we hoped, and I've made the comment before, I hope when I leave Seed that I left it better than I found it. I think that's all we can ask, and I think that the next person has a bar that they're going to have to start with, and that's not where they stay. You as a board are going to have to make sure that next person takes several steps up, just like we continue to do, and our community will benefit greatly because of it.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So we'll start with that. Ken will start with a template of his job responsibilities that we would want to post, and then we'll circulate that, and anyone can add to it with any comments they have, and then we'll get it out on the networks that he discussed, and then we'll go from there. So unless anybody has any other ideas, we'll just kind of move forward that way and keep everybody informed. Does that sound okay? Way to start? Okay. Can we go back to the park improvements quickly? Because I think we need to give our staff some direction on, do we want them to look into some costs for these, for a project, or do we want to wait? And I think that's the issue. It looks to me, once we add the 2.5 million to our obligations that we have, and we've talked about the $300,000 for Dent Trunk Line loan guarantee, and then the it's almost still at 500,000 for Sutherland's. You've got about 800,000 that we can argue whether that's really an obligation or not. But if you consider everything, when you add the 2.5, we're going to end up with about close to $4 million right now of obligated funds and 7.5 of total. So that's what we will have left. So that'll be something Misha will put down for us in paper. It'll be for us to look at next time we can see. Do we want the staff to go ahead and try to get some cost figures for park improvements? Do you want to sit on it for another month and think before you have them do anything? The walking trail, bike trail, that's something that I thought would be a positive thing for Sweetwater if it were done right. But I don't know. I don't want to be the Lone Ranger on this. If nobody else thinks it's a good idea, then it might not be. But I just think if you had a 10-foot wide trail winding around that beautiful Newman Park property where people could ride bikes, push strollers, and walk, I personally think it would be used. And Jay has said he thinks it would be used, but I don't know. I don't want to jump off and do something that it's not a positive, that won't be used. So I don't mean to be wishy-washy on it. I just would like to be a little more sure. So does anybody have any other comments? And then the skateboard park as well. I think before we ask them but sometimes it is hard to make any kind of decision until you have some numbers in front of you. So.
Well, and I think that, from a staff point of view, we got to remember that anything that we would be doing is not on our property. So we have
right.
city property.
For sure.
And I think when you talk about the walking track, some might say, well, it's not that far from the high school track. But if you look at that, that is walking only. You don't push strollers on it. You don't put bicycles on it. And as Gilly said, Newman Park is a beautiful park. And if you could really have a nice walking area, there's already a lot of people using it. As I was checking on the splash pad throughout the summer, every time I went down there, there was always groups of people that were walking on that track. And it's not a very nice track, to be quite honest, that we have now. So if that was improved, I really think that we'd have a lot of people that would use this.
Add to my statement earlier, I think we could take the natural landscape of Newman Park and really do some amazing things. With the skate park, with the different changes in elevation and all the things that's needed for that. And then by adding to your walking trail, that is the current trail, add to that and make it a decent, possibly get as much distance as you can out of it, maybe up to a mile, then that would be a great place for exercise and also just being in the park itself. So.
Yeah, Carolyn, this is Joseph, and I would be fine to see what the numbers look like. Go ahead and get some ideas circulating regarding the walking trail. And, Gil, I haven't really had anyone ask me about funding a skate park, but I'm not completely set against it. I think my preference would be in order of the walking trail first, but I'd like to see some numbers.
Joseph, I was totally oblivious to the skateboard world until a gentleman tried to get one put in about 3 years ago. And I started paying attention to all the people from kids to men, young men, walking around with skateboards in their hand. And I thought those people need a place to be instead of on the streets. So it changed my mind drastically.
You know, I
Just
think
a reminder,
I'm sorry.
I think there'd been some discussion about replacing park equipment also. I don't know if that discussion has completely been dropped. I certainly think we need to look at what can be done at Newman Park. But I think going back to what Dana brought us as far as the Longhorn Motel, if we pursue that, that's going to be a really, really big project. And it may put some constraints on us as far as what we can do as far as park improvements.
Thank you.
Dr. Peak, I think that Longhorn Motel is many years away from, by the time we get through with the owners, we'll be wishing we hadn't tackled that bull.
You know, and I think for us to get some numbers, if we're even leading in that direction, it's going to cost us to get some numbers. I mean, we're going to have an engineer take a look at that, and even if it's very preliminary, there'll be some kind of a cost tied to that.
Russ, do you have any comments? What are you thinking?
I'm kind of with Joseph. Let's go ahead and at least, whatever we need to do to get some numbers in place to, even if we don't act on them, at least we have some ideas so we can plan for the future. And one other thing I might mention is on the skateboard park, I know that the city of Post has one that looks like it's fairly new. Do we have any contacts with the city of Post to see how their skateboard park is being utilized?
We don't, but we'll be glad to reach out to them.
Okay.
Dr. Peak, how, again, since we're actually looking at doing something on city property, do we need to have a couple people from the city working with us on this?
Well, we get into the problem with Russell's leaving, and he was the one who had kind of gathered up all the information that we were looking at. And that may throw a monkey wrench into doing anything in the way of replacing the existing park equipment. We can certainly talk to Dana and see if he's available to help. But I think it may be just because of staffing issues, we may have to kind of muddle through it just a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll reach out to the city and see how we need to start that process and get with an engineering company and at least find out what kind of costs we would have in preliminary cost estimates and design.
Yeah, just a design. I mean, I'm wondering, what do other communities have walking trails and bike trails that are utilized or not, or I don't know.
Well, if you go back to the original park plan, that was a big part of that long-term plan, was to have better walking, biking trails in our community. Because like you had said, we don't have very nice facilities right now. And going back to using Newman Park, you've got restroom facilities, you've already got parking facilities. It seems like that is the cheapest place that if you're going to put one in, to put a nice one with really nice landscaping around it that would fit. So
To me, it just seems like a walking trail is something that benefits, as a potential to benefit every single person. It's not specific for an age group. It's not specific for, for anything. But maybe I'm wrong. To me, the only place we have to walk besides the high school track really, and the place at Sweetwater, in the park that is uneven. And I think it's not really that safe because it's uneven for some people to walk on, but it's a good place. It's certainly used, but to me, that's the one thing. We don't have a place to walk unless you walk on the street, which a lot of people do, and maybe that's okay. Maybe that's all you need. I don't know. I'm just curious what other people say. I don't think we need to embark on something unless it really is something everybody is all in about, because it just, you know, we need to all be in on something like that before you spend money on it, in my opinion.
Well, and since we're using so much Zoom meeting as a board, you could commit to start having your meetings on the walking track with your cell phones in front of you and walk around. And that way, each month we'd at least be using it for an hour, hour and a half.
Steps in. Yep, that's right. That's right. You're saying that, and you probably wouldn't be a part of it. See, so there you go. You wouldn't have to do it. Anyway, well, I don't know. We'll see. Do we want them to go ahead and talk to an engineer about a design? Or I guess we could pull up the master parks plan and see what that design looks like. Maybe that would be a better starting point. I don't know. Because again, it's the commission's, city commission. Well, it's their park. We would try to give them something to kind of see if they had an appetite for, if it was funded. I don't really know. It's part of trying to make a difference for Sweetwater for the better, and I don't know if this is the way to go or not. I don't know. And I see it as a need, but I don't know if other people do or not. And the playground equipment, certainly, you know, I think that's certainly something that should be addressed. I just don't know. Maybe when we start getting new water revenues, we'll be able to do some of these things through the city. I don't know. But anybody else?
I think you've got to start at the basics, Carolyn. And first of all, like Ken said, get with the city and get permission to do what we're wanting to do, and then just follow the steps from there. And if you can bring us numbers back in the next 1 or 2, 3 months, that would be great. Otherwise, just follow the steps.
Okay. Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Gil. Okay. Anything else today?
Staff has nothing else.
Okay. Dr. Peak? Any comments? Anything else we need to talk about?
I was going to move, we adjourn.
All right. Good job. Okay. Sounds good. Thank y'all, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll keep you informed.
Thanks.
Thank you.